Harry,
Hey, bud.
Terjanian.
Is
Man,
that
you have I just want to get it right out of the way before anything else. You
okay?
have become you have become one handsome man.
Oh, have I now?
Yeah.
Oh, in
I
what
mean,
sense? What have I changed?
the beard looks really good. The hair
Okay.
length looks really good. The weight loss looks really good.
Thank you, brother.
Everything, man. I'm glad to see you. I feel like it's been way too long,
It's been
but
a long time, Corey.
the time has been good to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been hard work. I'm the only one who lost weight during the whole COVID lockdown thing.
Yeah.
I
That,
started to do it the right way right before I got lucky. The timing of this has been really lucky for me. The
yeah.
rest of the world's fallen apart, but I've actually done quite well during this personally. I've gotten a lot of compliments on the beard and the long hair,
Yeah.
and which is so weird because I don't love keeping the long hair, but I'm gonna do it for a while because I just did
Right.
it because the barber shops were closed, and I was like,
Right.
it's been a long time, and it's a huge inconvenience. And yet
Oh yeah.
now I've gotten so many compliments. I'm like, oh man, I guess I can't turn back here. There's too many compliments. Like, which
Right.
is a weird way to live your life. That is the wrong way to live your life. I should not be.
What? You never in your life became so superficial that compliments were the fuel
Now I'm
behind.
gonna have to be. This is crazy. I'm gonna have to. I do not. Well, I don't know. I don't hate the long hair. I like it to some degree, but it is a bit of a pain, and it gets in your face. And when I put in a hat, and if I don't comb it right, it gets flat up. If I wear a hat, it gets flat up top. You know that thing. Well,
Yeah.
like
Uh,
it
I
gets
mean,
flat on the top, and then the sides go out because of the baseball cap. Is the worst way to fix your hair. But if you're in the sun, it's a whole thing. And yet I will probably keep it because of the number of compliments, which is scary. If you get enough compliments, that you'll do whatever people say. That's it's the worst way. It's the
well,
exact opposite of what you're supposed to do in life, Corey.
honestly, man, as comedians, that's the world that you live inside of.
Oh, absolutely. Hold
Like
on, let me fix this camera. I'm here. I'm listening to you.
everything is for the attaboy and the validation. You know what I mean? The pat on the back. Good job. So,
Yeah, that's the irony of doing comedy.
mhm,
Um, is that showbiz itself in general, it's the worst. It's everything that's wrong with humanity, but and I enjoy it. I've chosen voluntarily to go into it, but for somebody who had such low self-esteem in high school, especially, to be part of a business where on a nightly basis I am looking for other people's approval,
yeah. Well,
and if
have you
I
done have you done any like outdoor shows or drive-in shows
yeah,
during?
I've done very few because I don't like the Zoom comedy thing. I didn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
No offense, anyone who does it, please by all means do whatever makes you feel happy. But it's just not the connection that I like,
Right.
and not the timing. And so I did one uh, show that a friend of mine was putting together. It was a drive-through. It's social distance live audience, but also drive-through with cars, right?
Hmm.
And the cars thing I was so scared about doing. Because the idea of people honking it would drive me nuts. I don't know what it is, but just
It feels like a heckle. It feels like a heckle, though, right?
it feels like a heckle. It feels strange for sure. It feels like a
Interrupting.
heckle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, I do not want to do that. Like I don't want to do the thing where people start honking their horns. That's gonna drive me really nuts.
Hmm.
Uh, And so this one, they're like, no honking, it's cool. They'll do the flickering of the lights, like the high beams you'll get, which I don't mind as much,
Hmm.
but it is still a little weird when you get laughs and you're killing and you're high beaming. But this show, I'd seen a bunch of my friends do it, and I was like excited to do it. I go, all right, I have to do something. I'm going nuts. So they booked me for like there's so many comedians, and there's so little space that it becomes you're like literally now the same rooms that I would play before. Bill Burr is like playing them, and like
Right.
it's like,
Right.
ah, great. Now I got to go to like, obviously they're gonna book Bill Burr over
Right.
me or anybody in my level,
Right.
So now it becomes more crowded, you know?
Mhm.
So I get there and I'm like, all right, this is not a bad show. I've seen some friends do okay on it. You know, there's at least a live audience. I'm excited. I get there. The night I get there, I drive through a rainstorm up from the Jersey Shore. Because, of course, if I'm going to book one gig in 6 months, it's going to be
A far drive.
the Saturday when I'm on vacation with my brother. My brother had
Right.
rented a thing, and he's like, come with us. And I'm like, great. And then, of course, that's the day. 6 months, nothing, just but twiddling my thumbs. But, of course, it has to be right in the middle. So I got to drive up about 3 hours, 2.5 hours or whatever, in the rain during a thunderstorm. I get there. It just reminded me of the dumb things you used to do to get stage time when I first started out, which I don't do as much anymore. But you the same thing with wrestling. You drive 2 hours or whatever to get to a show that you really wanted to do.
Well, dude, honestly, I think for the driving all that way and like dealing with the drama of all the other people's crap and then just like that 15 minutes is all that matters. You know, like whatever the time is in the ring is all that matters. Like that.
Well, it's the same thing with comedy, but
same exact thing.
The thing is, I don't know if it's the same thing in wrestling. I mean, I think you reach a point as you grow older from it and you get more experience that the enthusiasm of that 5 minutes is a little less when you get the 10 minutes and the 15 minutes in front of a real crowd. As you know, you have to stop doing what it doesn't make logical sense that if you're performing for 100 people that you're like, I still want to drive 2 hours to do 5 minutes. You know, naturally as a human being, you go, I'm not doing this anymore. But so anyway, I drive 2 hours long. I'm telling a real long story here, but whatever. This is a podcast. That's what these are for, right, Corey?
It's your time, bro. Do it.
I get up there and I'm excited. And the second I pull up there, I see that across in the parking lot, they do that in the back of the diner, the parking lot of a diner, at the Bel Air Diner at Queens. Great establishment. There's another restaurant with live music across the parking lot.
This is a contradiction of sounds.
Right. And it's just of all the parking lots, and I never thought I'd be in a situation where I'd be jealous of other parking lots. Like, why couldn't it be another? Why does it have to be? And that's the comedy thing of like, I can't believe now I've booked one show in 6 months. He wasn't there last week. They just started that. I'm like, and so I get on stage and I make fun of it. I have fun with it. And then luckily he stopped playing. He took his break right as I went on stage.
Oh my God.
I was like, I got a small window here. I guess he's either done or doing it. And I get up there, I do my jokes. I'm doing really good actually. And then halfway through, I forget the second half of one of my bits or just the connector. I know that because I haven't done this. You know, it's like a muscle. You have to really work it out. I hadn't.
Do you ever have like a notebook or like a note card, or do you ever bring anything up on stage to you?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're working on new stuff, especially, you do all the time. Some comics back in the day used to kind of get away with. You're like, that's funny. You bring up that notebook to do that same joke I saw you do. You've been doing for 5 years. That's a little odd. Some people use it as a crutch.
Yeah.
But whatever.
For me, I'll just open the page and put it on the stool, and like just so I won't lose my place on where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. In theory, you want to at some point if you memorize them. You know, my memory is terrible. I have to do it through repetition.
Right.
And sometimes I'll have it on my phone now. Everything is the phone, which is interesting. You put the notes on your phone, and to me, it's odd because I always point this out. Like when I start pulling out my phone, it looks like I've lost interest in my own comedy.
You're heckling yourself.
Yeah, like what's on Instagram? This is not. But I had a bit that I've used to do like a 5-minute chunk, and I know the first part, and then I know the second half, and then there's like a connecting bit in the middle, and I forgot that bit, and I just told the audience, "Oh man, I forgot I was on a roll too," and blah blah blah. So that got a lot of laughs. I did really well. Especially for not having been on stage for 6 months.
Doing play-by-play on your mess ups.
Yeah.
It really gets you. It gets you humility points. You know what I mean? Like,
the thing is this, Corey. I have more than enough humility points. I'm very humble at this point from my career in show business.
Here's the thing, Harry.
I'm hoping to get followers from your podcast. That's how well my career is going, Corey. I'm hoping to pick up some of your listeners.
I'm gonna whisper this part so no one else hears it.
Yeah.
That's sad.
I know.
But
I'm hoping to pick up one of the three, though. I'm using my mind. If I can get one of the three, that's 33% of your listenership,
yeah,
Corey.
there you go. There you go.
But
yeah, honestly, I'm not one for calling myself humble for the most part. I don't do that. Like I let my actions speak the humility as far as like saying, because I won't call myself funny. I won't call myself a good wrestler. I won't call myself.
Well, ironically, if you're humble, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Let's put it this way: the business has humbled me, if that's what we're looking at. The humble, as far as humble points, I think the playing the diner has humbled me. I think, there's a lot of things that have humbled me. I remember back in the day before we used to do outdoor shows. I remember I did some college gig, and anytime it's not highly attended, there's always some excuse. They're very sweet. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's college football game this weekend. That's the thing." Or playoffs are on this weekend. Like
local sports is happening.
Yeah, they're always like local sports
high school,
or whatever.
Yeah. There's always.
Then
something.
they start to get like real, like, oh, the playoffs were yesterday. People are hungover. They're hanging out. Little League opened up this weekend. You gotta be.
It's the bowling leagues just started in the community.
One time they were like, "Oh, the strawberry festival is this weekend." I'm like, I'm not outgrowing produce. What are we doing here?
Yeah,
it's raining. I'm like, the venue is indoors, right? How are we?
Well, maybe the strawberries were funny. Maybe they were funny strawberries.
That's gonna hurt my feelings. Yeah, I don't want to.
They were very.
It depends how young the strawberries are. They can get a gig over at Comedy Central. But if they're 3 days old, they just get rid of them. They don't want them. It's too old. But yeah, that's the gig that's the one gig I did, and I had fun with it. It was a really good gig, and but I'm kind of almost I just miss doing it in front of a live crowd. So if it's not a live crowd, I'm not eager to do it, and I know that they're gonna shut down for the winter basically because we can't keep doing outdoor shows.
Yeah,
and so I almost decided to like take it off. Like, all right, I'll be back when we resume. I'll come back for that. Mm-hmm. But we lost a lot of people. A lot of people leaving. New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah,
because they're not doing comedy.
People leaving L.A. too. Like a lot of comics leaving L.A. Like it's like not being able to justify the high expense of living.
It's not just the high expense of living. It's the whole lifestyle. Yeah, it's the high expense of living. But on top of that, it's the whole lifestyle that you're choosing to live too, because it's being in a room, having 6 roommates. Like you did that for comedy. That's the agreement you had. Like, all right, I'll do this so I can pursue my dream of comedy. If I'm not doing that, what the hell am I doing here? And how long is this gonna last?
It's just bro hangs, bro.
I guess,
just bro hangs, dude.
We'll see how much you enjoy the bro hangs when you don't have anywhere to go. The thing about a bro hang is if it goes more than 6 hours, that becomes problematic, Cor. After a while, you just go, we got nothing to talk about. We've got nothing to watch. We went through Netflix. What are we talking about?
That's why you gotta preface. That's why you gotta preface with a hard out.
Right. Well, there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. You mean it just in bro hangs, just like, hey, just so you guys know.
Hey,
again,
I'm
that's
here
hard.
From 2 to 3. That's it. Not 2 or 3. 2 to 3.
2. Oh yeah. Well, that's true. Ironically, I had a hard out for the thing. Well, I don't mind hanging with you, but it's 2 to 3. But it's also different when there's a microphone in front of you, I guess.
Yeah.
And also people talking. Depends who you're dealing with, but.
So, talk to me about like how some of your confidence has changed now. Like, lately.
Sure, man.
Because, dude, that's the thing. And I said this to you even before when you did the show. I'm like, and I said it to you personally, where I say, dude, you got to have more confidence. Like that. I think that's like you undersell yourself sometimes, and it would always come back to your weight, and it always come back to your shaming yourself. When it's like that's not. To me, I don't feel like you need that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Part of it is the fact that when you're in the business, the weight affects what how you get looked at and what you can do and roles you can apply for or what roles you can audition for and stuff. So it messes you with a little bit, messes with you, and you start to think less because your phone doesn't ring for everything. I know for a while my phone would only ring, when I had a manager, it would ring for fat slobby parts, wacky parts, idiots, morons, people who are crazy, and those can be fun, but that's not the only thing I wanted to do. It would be a lot of nudity too. You'd be surprised how much nudity people want you to do when you're either super hot or super fat. All of a sudden you're in demand for nudity on both ends of that. So a lot of baby New Year's and grown man in diaper things, and so and that's not what I wanted to do.
There's a sad, sick fetish. People are out there dressing heavy guys up in diapers or like making them naked. It's the same sort of thing that like some women will be like, "Hey, don't objectify me." That's
right.
Almost what casting directors or project writers or whatever are putting on these overweight folks.
Yeah, I mean it's a very limiting sort of thing, and especially when you watch movies. Like if you watch an old movie, they didn't care about that as much. Like if you go watch Jaws, right? What was that 1975 or 77? I don't remember what year, but you watch Jaws, and some of the reporters are just. It seems like they got whoever was near that beach town legitimately to play the reporters. Some of them are old, out of shape. No one cared. They just got people who looked like those people. But then if you go watch now, like I remember watching Batman versus Superman or whatever that one was, and there's a spoiler alert, but I mean in it Superman is, let's just say there's a it's comic book, so it doesn't last long, but there's a funeral for Superman, right? All of Metropolis or whatever is like, I'm like, geez, not one fat person could turn out and mourn Superman. There's not one out of shape person. So those are things I never.
He discriminated. He never saved them. He let them die.
Even though he could, he just.
It was a cleansing. He cleansed Metropolis.
It was a lie. You'd be like, oh, they're too heavy. You're like, Superman, who you bullshitting? Come on, Superman.
You would lift planes, bro. You would be lifting planes. I don't know.
Yeah, it's spread out. The weight is spread out. With a fat person, it's all.
It's the way you distribute.
Yeah, it's the way you distribute the weight. It's all right. I mean. You're like, Superman, that seems kind of mean. He goes, hey, listen, eat a salad. You go, Superman, why are you fat shaming? He goes,
if I'm watching out for you, you need to watch out for you.
How about you help out Superman a little bit? Either lose weight or don't go up past the 7th floor of a building. How about that? So, I'd watch those things. I noticed those things. Those always mess with my head because, I would get, when I lost weight, and I lost weight when I was younger, it's amazing that the opportunities quickly kind of opened up more for me. And then they went away when I gained weight,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not impossible to make it. I'm not saying it is, because every once in a while you'll get that argument like, oh, what about this one person who gets to be fat? It was always the same, like 5 people. What about Chris Farley? Like, he died in 1998. It's been a long time. What about John Candy? He died in 1994.
Outliers. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And then, there's Josh Gad, and then there's, Jack Black. I'm like, there's like 3 guys who get to fill that role, and everyone has that, right. The same thing. I remember they would talk about Eddie Murphy got to be the one black guy who could do anything like that. There's that story about Dave Chappelle he was meeting with HBO, and they go, well, why do we need Dave Chappelle? We've got Chris Rock. And it's like such a stupid way to look at it. Like, no, you have 2 Hall of Fame comedians, but the mentality, especially in showbiz, is people can't see past the limiting that they can do.
Tick this box, tick this box, tick this box.
Oh, black comedian, that's it. As opposed to like, no, he's a different person. Right. Except for nerdy white guys, you can always find plenty of those. We got plenty of room for nerd. And so that stuff messed with me a lot. It's the career I chose, and no matter how well I do, I always felt there was a ceiling for me, and there's a certain style of comedy I wanted to do too. My influences were more cerebral, so to speak. Dennis Miller, Dana Gould, Greg Giraldo, Patton Oswalt. They weren't. And then every once in a while after a show, people would be like, oh, you remind me of Chris Farley. There's nothing I do that should remind you of Chris Farley. And I love Chris Farley, but there's nothing I do. But people just put you in those,
they just
boxes. So
you check a box.
Yeah.
You know, like they just have a checklist that they like cross off.
Yeah.
Little bullet points.
My goal weight is to not look like Josh Gad, to not get that after the end of comedy show, have a drunk guy go, yeah, you look like you're funny. You just remind me of Josh Gad, because he's the other fat guy. And he's, so
you're not getting that these days, are you?
Well, I mean, I haven't been on stage since I lost the weight really, but I would get that, but I would get that when like, I don't know, within the last 2 years, I've gotten that where people
I don't think Josh Gad is an unattractive person in any way.
I'm not saying he is.
Right.
But the thing is very odd.
It's like we shouldn't attach unattractiveness to heaviness because they're not.
No, they're not
the same.
They're not the same, and maybe that's something that I take personally because here's what I don't get, Corey. Here's what I don't get. Oh, you know who you remind me of? Chris Evans. I'm not getting that. You know what I mean? Oh, you remind me of Brad Pitt. There's something about you. So when you don't get that, when they only pick the one fat guy, when you only kind of get fat guys, and it's not necessarily unattractive, but you're like, that's interesting that you compare me to that. But again, that's all in my head. That's not
every jar has its lid. You know what I mean? Like every group, like somebody comes up to me, undoubtedly. Somebody will come up to me and go, hey, you look like this guy, that guy, this guy, some other white guy with long hair and facial hair.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? It's
sure.
Not, or it's just because they are not used to seeing that out in the world. Like it's not an everyday thing.
Yeah.
So it's not an everyday thing that they see someone like you who's funny. They don't see comedy every day. Like that's the other thing I say about my philosophies on ring psychology. A lot of it will circle back around to the fact that most of the people who are here, who are watching this wrestling show, have never seen wrestling before in their life, and they already have a preconceived notion that it's bullshit. So we're teaching them how to feel about it, because a live experience is different than anything you're going to watch on TV. So you doing live comedy and them coming up to you and saying something, they just wanted to say something.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
No doubt. And I get that. I don't think they're malicious by any means. I don't think they're being malicious. Mm-hmm. But again, it's something I was assigning a certain amount of energy in a certain direction to, and I was very paranoid about it because I would get those things from certain, even casting directors. I remember one time I went in for a thing. They go, "Oh, you remind us of this guy, Adam Goldman or something. I forget what his name. Remember Man vs. Food? That guy? There was a show where a guy would on the Food Network, and it was and the guy is really good, by the way. But he would do a thing where it was his challenge to go to those like the steakhouse where where they'd have the 100
take a picture.
The 64-ounce steak or whatever it was. If you could eat 2 of these or whatever, whoever can eat 100 tacos, get some that type of thing, and he would do that from town to town. Mm-hmm. And I remember going, I have nothing in common with that guy. Why would you think that that's a thing? And it's just because I have black hair and I'm a fat guy, and that's the box that they sign. Again, all these things are not necessarily accurate, but they're things that I assigned to it because I was overweight. And so the other thing with being overweight is, if you don't have your personality together, your looks are going to affect certain things like dating, for example. Mm-hmm. I lost weight, and it became when I was younger, I lost weight, and it was infinitely easier to get phone numbers and to go on dates with women. And when I gained weight, it was a lot harder, especially with dating apps and what have you. Mm-hmm. Because you're doing something that's just vanity. And I wasn't doing well on them because if you're just going off vanity, a guy who's heavier may not do that well. And so those are things that mess with me and mess with my self-esteem for a long time. And even after I learned how to, I do a relationship sex advice podcast. And
yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Man School 202. I mean, I'm talking about years ago. So,
Yeah.
so I'm much better philosophically, even at a heavier weight. I was still, my confidence was much better, but it does mess with your confidence a lot to some degree. It has an effect if you let it, and I was letting it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the physical aspect of it. I realize having lost the amount of weight I've lost, and when I'm on keto and when I'm not, and I'm still in the process of all that. It's still kind of new within the year. So the amount of what you feel with what you put into your body and your system has a big effect on how you feel and thus your self-esteem. So when I go off on the diet, my girl came to town and she wanted to do New York stuff, right? She's from out of town, so
Cheese. A lot of cheese.
A lot of cheese, a lot of pizza, because apparently LA doesn't know how to make a decent pizza. Cannolis, I tried to introduce her to, like knish, she never heard of. All these, heavy carb, heavy.
I just had my first knish.
You did, really?
I just had my first knish in my life.
How'd you feel, Corey?
It was delicious. It was amazing. Okay. It was great. It was my friend Joe Roshbaum. He just did the podcast and he talked about on the podcast about knishes, and I was like, I don't know what those are. So we filmed a little video for his social media where he had won these yarmulkes off auction that were like made by the creator of The Simpsons, and they had like little Homer Simpsons and they had drawings from the creator of The Simpsons. Yeah, and we put the yarmulkes on and ate the knishes.
Oh, nice.
So
a traditional Jewish food. Yeah, I forget that I'm being from New York. I forget that not everyone has them. But Philly has some. You definitely find some down there, no?
I've never thought to even look or never even thought about it. I just didn't know what it was. Anyway, go back to your story. Your girl came into town. You wanted to do a bunch of stuff.
I had been pretty good on my diet and all that stuff. And so, I was like, all right, I've been pretty good. I'm going to keep working out, but I'll go off the diet a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm still definitely an addict when it comes to food because I went off the rails heavy. Like, it's party time. And I felt like shit. I'm dehydrated and, just exhausted all the time. And I had, like, aches in my knees from working out that I didn't have before because I was doing a lot of junk food, too, in all fairness. Right. You know what I mean? I wasn't, like, carving up like a marathon runner where I'm eating, a good fettuccine Alfredo. And you feel like shit. And then when I tried to get back on the diet, my body started detoxing again. It'll do this thing. Because your body wants it's a drug. The body craves the processed sugar. So you literally detox, which involves like being depressed and miserable. And I was like lethargic and I didn't want to do anything. And I was like, I literally at one point broke down in tears because I was mildly sad, but it amplifies the sadness. And I forgot, like, it took me a little bit to realize, like, oh, I know what this is. My body is detoxing. And so the long point of this story is that everything you put in your body affects. And if that's how I'm affected when I went off the rails, like I forgot how bad I felt. And that's how terrible I felt with the extra weight and not, and eating fast food and stuff and eating junk food. It made me feel like shit. So on top of that, your self-esteem is already being rocked by the fact that you're overweight. But on top of that, your mental state is not great. So even as good as I thought I felt within the last 2 or 3 years, and I felt pretty good, the dating thing was great to me. I had my confidence from that, and doing the comedy and the wrestling stuff was great. As good as I thought I felt, I didn't realize how much better I feel when my stuff is on point and I lose some weight and stuff. So it's a long way to tell you that it does affect it, but that did affect my self-esteem.
What about like on the Man School 202? And it's funny because this is evolving with Corey Castle episode 202.
That's right. How ironic. Man School 202. All episodes on YouTube.
When you did like the rule of 5 and stuff, did you see that significantly changing more and more as you're getting more comfortable in your confidence and your appearance? Because
finish your question.
I was thinking like a lot of the self-doubt that you would have and the like, oh, I don't fit this, I don't fit that. It's all like a a real learned behavior, and it's like
Sure.
programmed,
Sure.
hardwired
Yeah.
into you. And now you're starting to shed that programming.
Well, I'd already kind of started to shed the program even before I shed the weight, to be honest.
Mhm.
So it's twofold. I mean, obviously being overweight and stuff and the food you put into your system affects you, but also how you view things is something you can control as well. And I grew up in a very negative household,
Mhm.
very loving household. My parents were very loving people, but they were immigrants from another country. So it's like they're very wary and concerned because it's a difficult life. So, it's like, don't go pursue comedy. Don't live your dreams. We didn't come here for you to do that. We left
Okay.
a place of poverty and we fought racism and difficulties. Like, now you're going to become a circus clown? Get the fuck out of here. We're
Yeah,
not
it's
doing
like
that.
we're,
Are you out of
no,
your mind?
we picked up our struggle
Right.
there, only
Yeah.
to pick up a little bit less struggle here, but we're still going to struggle.
Right.
Don't think you can do anything but.
And that's the mentality. My mom
Right.
to this day will be like, "Oh, it rained 4 days ago. Don't go outside." It's just like, be careful. The streets they're slippery. And meanwhile, I see her like balancing on a stool to get something off a shelf. I'm like, "What are you doing?" But that's the mentality of like, so it's a very negative mentality,
Uh-huh.
um, and so that affected me. I carried that, with me of like being careful not to do
So it's
anything
not
crazy.
safety first, it's worry first.
Worry first, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And it took me a while to kind of shed that as well, and to be positive and to know that I could be very happy. But the man school thing is also knowing your value as a human being. And
Right.
sometimes in the past, I did assign a lot of value to my weight as a person. But the thing that it was most detrimental to me not getting what I wanted out of relationships or not meeting women was a lack of confidence more than anything. Because I did pretty well before I lost the weight. I met the girl
Mhm.
I'm with now who is amazing, and I was on a good run. I was dating 4 women at the same time. They knew about it, an open
Mhm.
relationship thing that I was doing. That was all before I lost the weight. So
Mhm.
that had nothing to do with the weight. It had a lot more to do with confidence and knowing what my value is. So the big thing we teach is knowing what your value is, right?
Mhm.
And and the weird thing is, even if the other person doesn't know what your value is, when you set your boundaries, they eventually figure out what your value is and they respect that. So there's a big thing, especially among men, where they bend over backwards to accommodate a girl because she's pretty or
Mhm.
something. And
Right.
or if she says something awful or behaves in a way, and then you end up with these people, and it does work with men too as well. There's just like, a 10, for lack of a better term, who is a complete asshole. Why? Because people tolerate their shit because they're good looking and hoping that they can, hook up. And when you stop that in its tracks, like you show people what your value is when you go, yeah, I'm not, if you don't like doing something, just going, I'm not doing that. Like I remember this would happen to me all the time because a girl would, I would able to, sometimes I'm able to get the number initially back in the day,
Mhm.
and then the girl, I didn't do enough to hook them in, let's say. And so like 2 days later, I'm like, oh, let's hang out. And it's like, oh, do you mind if I bring my friend with? She wants to come along, like, and not in a fun way, not in a, do
Right.
you
It's
wanna,
just
you
no.
wanna, you mind if my friend joins us in the bedroom type of way? It's
Right.
do you mind if
It's
my friend
my
comes on the date too?
yeah.
And back in the day, I would be like too polite to say anything, and now, but I eventually learned, like, if something bothers you, just go, no, like, no, I don't, I'm interested in you, not her. So if you don't want
Mhm.
to do this, we don't have to do this. And I walk
Mhm.
away.
Mhm.
And the thing is, when you walk away, people all of a sudden reassess, like, oh, they're walking away from me. Why? It's a human nature thing. We don't like to be offended, or we don't like to be disregarded in a
Like
certain way.
it's a level of rejection.
We don't like to be rejected. Yeah.
Right. We don't like to be denied. Like, oh, I thought I was great. I guess I'm not as
Right.
great as I thought I was. Oh
Right.
shit. All right.
And all of
Well,
a sudden
time to
now,
reassess.
right. Not only that, they're like, wait, what does this guy have that I'm missing here? This must be important. And then they kind of change their tune.
Right.
But
Right.
you're never doing it as a game. You're doing it. It's the same thing if you're not interested. It's just the same way you'd be treated at work. So the same things that, if somebody is like doing some crazy shit at work, and you go, yeah, you're not going to talk to me like that, and it's holding your boundaries, the things that you're not comfortable with, and it changes your confidence, and you feel better about yourself. You don't feel like a victim all the time.
Your actions will speak your non-negotiables for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
you decide what they are and you act on them, and then all of a sudden people know, okay, this is not how I'm going to talk to this person or treat this person because they're not going to tolerate it. As human beings, we allow people to teach us or treat us the way we solidify how people treat us with our actions.
No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
There you go.
I wrote down this quote.
Yeah.
I put this quote in my phone the other day.
It counts as writing, Corey.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And I said, it said, people don't think their ways into acting different. They act their ways into thinking different.
Ah, okay. I like that.
Very, very big on the idea of like change how you define some stuff. You know what I mean? When you're like, oh man, that sucks for me. It's like, no, I mean, other cool, like, instead of like falling victim to something that might suck for you, just go, well, like, I'm open up to something that maybe that's more worthy of me.
Sure. Yeah. Well, a thing that I found myself doing a lot because I was very negative, and part of that is that my comedy comes from tragedy and negativity to some degree, but sometimes you let that bleed into your life, and so anytime something goes wrong, I'm like, of course it goes wrong. Of course. Why wouldn't all these three things happen on the same day? And you go, this is just.
Oh, and comedy rules of three. I mean, it's just,
right. Exactly.
It all ties together.
And so, but what you never do is you almost never go, wow, these three, when a day works out, or you time it just right, or you come out of the store. All right. So when I would come out of the store and the meter would expire by 2 minutes, there was a ticket on my car. I'm like, of course, for me, I don't get, it's going to be immediate. But the number of times that I've also walked out,
tickets.
The number of times I've also walked out, and then there's either been, there's still a minute left on the meter. I timed it perfectly, but we never appreciate those things. We only focus on the negative.
Right.
And it takes a long time to get past that. I was like super negative, Mr. Negative about everything, because that's how I made my comedy for a while too, is all the negativity. And you're like, oh yeah, but I'm not all this is funneling into comedy, and you have to find a weird balance to let it out.
There's a cool thing that I say all the time, and if you're listening to the podcast and you've heard me say this a million times, skip ahead 15 seconds, or listen to it again, because maybe it's repetition that really will sink it in. As a society, as people, we waste so many right nows on right nows that happened already and will never get back.
Yeah.
So if your timeline from birth to death is this, like my fingers are out if you're just listening to the audio.
A good 2 feet.
A good 2 feet. From birth to death, this is your life, right? The problems, the bad stuff, the damage that happened to you was this minute. It was this small of what happened in the relation to how long you've lived your life. So you're going to have so much more life after that happened, but somehow you're living in this little tiny chunk so much that you're not living your best life after it.
Yeah.
So don't I'm kind of saying like
sit and live in the negative.
Right.
Right. And
you'll become a victim to it. And another thing I always say is like your ability to become a deliberate creator in your life gets robbed from you when you live in yesterday.
Mm.
You're just really reacting to the world happening to you instead of like making your life happen for you.
Yeah, and it's and I'm trying to think of the other ways to approach it. I mean, we're sounding like a very self-help. I'm not being very funny on this podcast. That's the other thing I'm thinking as a comedian. Part of me is,
don't force it in any direction.
This is not what my comedy is like, by the way, people. If you could go to Harry Terjanian on YouTube, and There's actually funny stuff up there. I don't want you to think that, oh, this guy gets on stage. No wonder no one will book him. He thought it was because he's fat, but here he is just having these serious seminars. No wonder the outdoor comedy show won't book him. I did have another outdoor comedy show.
We got the parking lot across the street with live music.
Yeah.
We don't need this guy to talk about accountability and self-worth. Pisha.
Yeah.
We got
we'd rather listen to
a guy with a Casio keyboard and an acoustic guitar. We don't need
acoustic versions of Greek love songs. Why not? The other comedy show, I did have one other comedy show booked that happened during the rainstorm that came up, that storm. So it was a 14-day comedy festival.
4 days previous to when your mom told you to watch out on the roads.
Oh yeah, that's exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. They had a 14-day comedy festival. They canceled one day due to the storms, and my day was that day. So that's, you can look at it that, and I just it is what it is, and but you don't let those things in the past dictate, because if you look back on it, I think about the time you got a flat tire 5 years ago. That has no impact on your day today. That's done. And yet in the moment when that happens, you just get so frustrated and like, and I remember I got a flat tire a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, it was a flat tire in the rain on the way to do a wrestling show, and I had a bunch of equipment in the car. So to get the to get the spare out, I had to, and then also my trunk was broken, by the way. So I had to open the trunk from the inside, but I couldn't open the trunk from the inside.
Because there's things in the way.
There's things in the way. So I have to clear the things out so I can open the trunk to move the stuff so I could get the tire out and change the flat in the rain. And all because I hit a pothole, and I started to do the shit where I go, God damn it, why did if I had just been half an inch to the right, I'd still be on the road. And then I go, well, what is that going to do? Because praying for a time machine is not going to work, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to help because I don't have one, right? So here going, what if I had done this? The faster I change this, the faster this situation is done with, and that's it. And I had to just kind of go, and it's weird how we let the emotions dictate. You let the emotions fester, and when you just try to use logic as much as you can and go, this doesn't matter. None of that matters. Let's just change this. Let's just do it. We're avoiding doing what we have to do. There's no other option. What else can I do?
Right.
And it's either sit here and cry about it or change the tire. All right, no time. And then you push that time. When you have a lot of time on your hands, that's when you start really messing with your own brain too. Mm-hmm. So being occupied is important as well.
So yeah, but there's so much value in time. Like I always say the most precious currency is time, and is like attention. That's
Absolutely.
why they call it paying attention, because it's such a, if you're going to invest any of your effort and any of your currency that is your time and your attention on this podcast or your podcast or anything that you or I make, it's like you had to take 3 steps to get to it.
Yeah.
This isn't on the radio. You can't just turn the radio on and then it's on. It's like you had to take this step, that step, this step to get to that step. So that you just already spent that currency. So,
and there's a lot of, you spend a lot of currency. And I found the thing that I was always very dangerous at was overthinking stuff. And that's a dangerous, and that's a danger for people who are intelligent. And I know I'm saying that I'm intelligent, which is egotistical, but for the sake of how things are going in this country, I'll put myself in the intelligent category.
Dude, just own it. Own it, man.
At this point. But so the danger is you overthink things, because you can find 1,000 reasons not to do something, and how to do it. And, well, it's not perfect right now. And what it is just do it. To steal a phrase from Nike, just do it. If you decided to work out, just do it. Do it, whether it's awful, it might not be perfect. Just do it, because the more time you let thoughts sneak into that, the more reasons you find to not do something.
Right.
And you end up wasting the time. I found myself wasting a lot of time in between thinking about doing something. How should I do it? And planning it out. And I spent so much time that I could have just gotten it over with, You turn yourself into a doubting perfectionist instead of somebody.
instead of somebody who's actually doing anything.
There you go. Exactly. And
Right.
that becomes, so there's a lot more to it. I suggest people check out Man School 202, because we have a lot of not just dating advice, but life advice. And, it's a lot to unhash in one podcast, but and I get it's very simple to say, hey, be positive, because I was the worst at that. I really was.
Right.
But there's a lot of, all right, the one big thing is this: no matter what happened yesterday, the best thing about life is that if you don't want to be a quote unquote loser anymore, tomorrow you don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can change everything you want if you want to change it. You don't have to be, and it doesn't matter what happened in the past. I could sit here and go, man, why didn't I work out sooner? Or why did it take me so long? Or why did all these things not fall into place? And there's a lot more stuff to it. There's stuff I had to look up about my diet and stuff that affected it, and chemically what was working and not working with my body. But the point is, I can sit back and look at the past and go, God, man, I kind of wasted my 20s and most of my 30s being overweight and not being happy with myself, because I wasn't happy about it. But I could also look at it and go, man, isn't it great that I got, that I'm right now in a good place? And wouldn't I rather be in a better place now than yesterday, and wishing I was back where I was yesterday?
It ups the gratitude.
Yeah.
It ups the gratitude. Like you can go, oh man, and beat yourself up for like, man, what a dummy I was, what an idiot I was. But that person is not the same person you currently are. So you're not the dummy. That younger version of you was the dummy.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not. That person is a different person, and I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to let that define who I am and what I do now, because here's the thing about life. It's really short, unless you stay alive, and then it's long. When you live, it's really long. Like,
well, it's funny. It's funny because you're talking about that time machine that you have to like whatever. I should have done this a long time ago. If you take that time machine and you just, instead of getting in it, you just drop it off to that guy.
Yeah.
And then that guy can get in it and jump forward and see where you're at. He'll be like, "Oh man, look how good looking I am."
Yeah.
Look like
very excited about it.
Right. Like, so I like more to check in with the younger version of myself that's already inside of me, and being like, wow, I hope you're really proud of who I've become and who I continue to become. Because if my 15-year-old self could see me now at 36, I'd be like, wow, dude, I lived my dreams. Like,
there you go.
I'm a bigger deal than I ever thought I'd ever be. And I'm continuing to try to, become a bigger and bigger and bigger deal.
I think my younger self would just be amazed that I had a threesome once, and they'd be like, "What? Sweet! You convinced 2 women to let you have sex with them, and they were into it, bro?
Can I live there? Can I just live there?"
Yeah. So your younger self is stupid too. They're impressed by anything. That's the other thing you got to take.
Right. Well, like you're suckered into stuff. Like your younger self got suckered. Like you can't beat yourself up for being suckered. You were stupid. And
you didn't know any better.
Like older people are genuinely or generally wiser. You know what I mean? Usually with age comes wisdom, because experience is the best teacher. So if you've lived, you've experienced things, and to not get suckered by some manipulative behavior, and what value in yourself you've got, and who to trust and who to not trust, and how to navigate a little bit better. Not to say that you're going to have it figured out, because no one's got it all figured out.
No, but I will say all the things that I really wish I would have gotten when I was younger would have probably destroyed me, now that I think about it, because I wasn't ready to handle it, whether it's career stuff or just relationship stuff. I'm better at relationships now, knowing all the stuff I have now, than if I'd met the girl I'm with now, who I love, if I'd met her when I was in my 20s, I would have blown that up, because I just didn't know what I was doing. And that's the aspect of all of life. A lot of the things you just don't know as much as you know later on. So
there's a good amount of I feel like an old guy bitching about the youth. There's because I was it, so I'm not just a hypocrite. There's a level of entitlement for why you didn't get everything you thought you deserved, and
it becomes a weird thing. You don't appreciate stuff if it's just given to you, or even when you get it, even if you work for it when you're younger, you just assume that all right, so this is where it should be. And what you don't realize is sometimes some things come with luck, some things come,
right place, right time.
Right place, right time, but you assume that's where you should be because that's where you are. So it's like raising your kids. If, whatever you give them, that's what they expect. So if you're feeding them McDonald's every day, they expect that. Or if you're giving them toys every day, the day you don't give them a toy, they don't go, man, it's been great, 364 days of toys. They go, what the fuck? Where's what's going on here? As opposed to somebody who hasn't had much. When you don't have much, you appreciate it more and more. So it's a weird balance when you're young. You don't have an appreciation for this stuff because you expect that that's the way it should stay. And you don't understand that you just happen to get the things you wanted at the right time. And it's a weird thing. I'm happier that I didn't get some of those things, to be honest. I still want them now, and now I'm ready for them. But, it's people. You see it all the time. People get a level of success when they're young, and they don't know any better, and they just start spending and going nuts because they assume it's going to be that way forever because that's the only thing they've experienced. And then they're burnt out, and they have no money because they don't appreciate the shit,
All right. I got like 2 or 3 more things.
Whatever, buddy.
Then hot dog and a handshake, indie wrestling payday, and
I'll
let you take it home.
I'm excited. I love hot dogs. I've never gotten the hot dog. I've only gotten the handshake.
I got paid in pizzas once.
Pizza?
Pizzas. I had
how many?
My family had gone down the shore, so I was home alone. I went and did the show for this promoter. This guy, Big Show. Not Big Show, Big Slam.
Big Slam.
Yeah, he just passed.
Okay.
But I did a show for him. He paid me in pizzas. I took an unprotected chair shot to the head. The things you do when you're young.
Smart stuff. Well, you thought a scout from the WWE might be there.
Right, exactly. I was like, a baseball field with a bunch of screaming kids. One of these screaming kids must be a talent scout for the WWE.
You never know.
Right. But, I have a funny thing. We talk about your flat tire.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about the story I had with my flat tire.
Okay.
So, I was in Camden, like right about to get on the bridge to get out of Camden.
Oh, Jesus, and there's Camden.
Potholes everywhere. My passenger front tire, bang, ate it in this pothole. And I was pulling over to the side of the road, and I was like, oh, I hope it didn't pop. And I looked over, and I saw this man who looked exactly like you.
Oh, wow.
When I say he looked exactly like you, I'm making that part up.
Okay, fair enough.
He looked at me, and he gave me the same face that you give me when I say stuff that you don't approve of. And he just went,
don't do it.
And I was like, I knew at that moment my tire was popped.
Oh, no.
But
and Camden, New Jersey. Oh, my God.
So, yeah, I don't live there. I don't live in that moment. You know what I mean? That happened.
No,
and it's gone.
That happened.
And so I was talking about like what your biggest problem was 6 months ago. Can you remember what it was?
My big problem 6 months ago? I can't.
No, it's gone. You know what I mean?
Theoretical. It's gone.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't matter anymore.
It's gone unless you let the energy stay. It's funny. You don't remember the thing, but you let the energy stay, which is the worst way to do it. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like it's teachable. Sometimes it's teachable. But I did want to say because we did talk about a time machine and that stuff's important to me. The idea of this
time
audio.
Travel?
Yeah. On top of that, honestly, I think like this audio, this video, this conversation is going to outlive us. This on the record, I want to have the opportunity to say if one of us looks back in 20 years and the other one's not around, I want it to be on the record, me having told you that you're an inspiration to me. You're somebody who I genuinely care about, and you've helped me in a lot of ways. And I've said it a million times. And I probably even said it to you that sometimes I'll refer to you as like my comedy dad, like the disapproving dad. And that went from the guy looking at me doing the head shake with the tire out.
The puns.
Yeah.
A lot of the puns, which you're good. The puns are good. It's just not my style. Listen, I promise that I'll be, I don't, that's a lot on me and I appreciate it. I just promise that I'll be a better comedy dad than Bill Cosby was to everybody else. Yeah. That's the only thing I'll promise.
You're shattering the glass roofie.
Yeah. I promise that's the only thing I'll say that I can do is be a better comedy dad than Bill Cosby.
So with the timestamp, all this stuff on the record, I want to give you this quick second. If you want to ask me or say anything at all, I'm open.
Well, listen, I love you, buddy. I'll just say that. I'll leave it at that. I always appreciate your enthusiasm and your energy, and I always appreciate you trying to improve yourself, trying to evolve. And that's the thing I've always respected about you, bud. And you have a fun energy no matter what's going on, even when I make the disapproving faces, which I think, is part of the fun for both of us.
They're not
discouraging. They're just like...
They're just disapproving. You're not shaming me.
But I will say, like, hey, it's not for me, but you do what you got to do, Corey.
So
the Pundertaker.
That's lifelong right there. But so that being said, with the time capsule and everything,
yeah.
So if someone's coming across this exact audio, I'm calling this part audio time travel. Somebody's coming across this, and it's like 30 years from now, and they love you, but they want to know, like, they want to hear a 2020 timestamp, like what's going on. Here's an audio time travel message from Harry Terjanian from 2020 to whatever year.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. I'm doing great personally in 2020. However, 2020 as a year overall, it may be the worst year to put a time travel. Here's what I hope. I hope that you have learned something from everything that has gone down here in 2020. For the love of God, please have learned something, because it has not been the best year for humanity as a whole, for America as a whole. But if we went through this so that you could learn something, then it will have been worth it. If not, like the people in 2020 who learned nothing from the people from 1990 and 1980 and 1970 all the way to 1918, well, then I don't know what to tell you. You're on your own, guys. But I hope, at the very least, I hope you've learned something from our mistakes, because we have made a lot of them. So
the way we normally wrap up is I always say that hypothetically, I've gifted you this show. And you've done this show before, so you know this is how I end it, right? Okay, so hypothetically, I've given you this show. So from now on, it's Evolving with Harry Terjanian, and this has been your pilot episode. This has been the very first episode of Evolving with Harry Terjanian. Now, in a very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, wrap it all up, take all the lessons from it, and then what lessons can help others evolve to be a better version of themselves tomorrow.
So I will say that the big lesson is that no matter how you feel today, you can change all of that tomorrow. It won't be easy. It's hard, but I know that anytime I've made the changes, I feel better for having made them. So that no matter what happened yesterday, that's all yesterday, and there's still plenty of time left for tomorrow. Even if you don't have that much time, it's better to have it's better to have a tomorrow that you're proud of than a yesterday that you were proud of.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I hope that you're doing well, and I hope to keep keeping up with you. I want to do Man School again.
Absolutely,
I'd like to
buddy.
Come on and hang with you guys. It's awesome, and I'm a fan. It's great to have friends who you can be fans of. I love that. And
that's a good thing, man.
I got your back, dude.
I appreciate it, brother.
Anytime you need a resource, you need a friend to talk to, you think someone's going to not understand you, you just need some judgment-free conversation, call me. Come
I
by. If you're
appreciate
coming
it,
through
bud.
Philly, come by, hang out. We'll laugh our asses off. I'm always
Absolutely.
here.
We always have a good time, bud. And I'll be in touch more often.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, be fun. Have safe. Thank you for your time. Keep evolving.
All right.
Bye.
All right, buddy.